For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod driveline components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody, WFO. We are back on the air. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, will be joining me, Joe Castello, on this show just minutes from now as we get ready for the final Spring Nationals at Houston Raceway Park. But we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the passing of, one of our brother announcers, Bob Unkefer, on this show. Just kind of tragic news. And we're going to spend a little bit of time, thinking about Bob and the memories out there. And I've robbed some photographs from Facebook, a lot of people posting. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to move into the race next week. I'm going to tell everybody about how we, since the last time I saw many of you, we had a big meeting here in South Florida about Palm Beach International Raceway. We're trying to save that facility. Got some interesting storylines. So if you're out there on YouTube, if you're watching on social, we encourage you to share the show, and we will we'll keep on trucking. Of course, we've got our audience out there, the WFO universe. Everybody is posting. Hopefully you are all well. Roger Richards is out there. The birthday boy just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Roger. Before we go any further, though, I want to thank the people who make it possible for me to go WFO like this a couple of times a week. In fact, our Ignition show is up on YouTube for only the second time ever. You can go out there. It's like 2 hours long. It's like a morning talk radio show, right? With a morning zoo quality to it. Lots of fun, lots of laughs, talking about Ferrari, talking about Formula One, showing some exclusive photographs of the Formula One circuit at Hard Rock Stadium right down the street from the WFO Radio studios. And just to be able to do all these shows. Last week, we had Erica Enders. We had Brittany Force. It was amazing. And you got to check those out because Erica said some really great things. Brittany said some really great things, newsworthy, I think. So check it out. And how is it possible? Well, thanks to great sponsors like brand new marketing partner, Phillips Connect. Thank you very much to Phillips and Justin and Mike Ashley and the team out there for recognizing that the WFO universe is a great place to connect with folks out there. And folks at Phillips Connect, the more I learn about the company, what they're doing with their sensors, if you are in the enterprise trucking business, if you have fleets of trucks and trailers, their sensors enable you to do so many different things, tracking your vehicles, tire temperature, safety features. The more I learn, the more amazed I am. The folks at Phillips Connect doing a great job. And we're going to be telling you a lot more about it, what they do. And we encourage you to go to phillips-connect.com to find out more information. Thanks to them. And VP Racing Fuel. You just heard a little bit about VP Racing Fuels. Go to the website, vpracingfuels.com, sign up for their newsletter and check some things out. Obviously, if you got a race car and you're looking for racing fuel, the consistency of the fuel and the quality of the fuel is over the top. But if you're a WFO radio listener and you've got a car that you just drive to work with, well, they make fuel additives and lubricants and a whole host of products for the regular consumer. So you can connect with VP Racing Fuels and support WFO radio. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Brand new episode of Hidden Horsepower going to drop on Friday. And we're going to talk to a former crew chief turned driver turned engine builder, not a engine builder initially by trade, who went on to win quite a few pro stock races, in particular, 99 of them at the moment, and 5 championships. Yes, I'm talking about Greg Anderson. We're going to speak with Greg later on today. That'll be up on Friday on Hidden Horsepower. But instead of talking about like the accolades in the career, we're going to focus on the engine building side of it and kind of having to learn that side of it if you wanted to be competitive. It's all an exercise to learn more about ring seal, the importance of ring seal, and how modern technology has fundamentally changed ring seal in all categories, especially those of you hindered by the rules makers, right? Like Stock Eliminator. You can't do anything. They've got rings for you. Go to totalseal.com, check out the website, and find out more information. You'll really be surprised when you listen to Hidden Horsepower. FTIperformance.com, transmissions, torque converters, transmission fluids. Been going for over 10 years. Greg Samuel and his team have put together an industry leader, and real proud to have them on as WFO sponsors, especially as we get ready for the K&N Spring Fling Million. And it's like a prop bet, right? Will an FTI transmission or torque converter car win the mill? What do you take? Yes or no? And I take yes. FTIperformance.com. Check them out. We're going to have Greg on the show coming soon. I'm super excited about that. And we've got our longtime sponsors too, the people who have been with us for so long, like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. And I always encourage you, this is a great gift. Send someone you love on the dragster adventure. Rodax Coffee and Grills.com, the hot sauces and spice rubs. Guys, you might not need a bag of coffee right now as a gift or for yourself, but when you do, 817-924-6821. Call Marvin Rodak and tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio. And then there's Sam Tech. Speaking of going down to Houston, Texas for the final time, the Spring Nationals, they are going to have a load of Sam Tech cars down there. Brian Massagill, I have no doubt, will be racing. samtech.edu for those of you wanting to get into the machining trade, the machine industry trade, et cetera, and so on. Thank you to our sponsors and, of course, our WFO Patreons, who they are members, VIP members, and they get special content. If you want to join later on, I'll tell you how to do that. But right now, we're going to go out to Wild West Engineering and connect with Alan Reinhart, the voice of the NHRA. We're going to talk racing, but obviously at the start of it, it's all Bob Unkefer. Alan, how are you doing on this given day? I know you and Bob were really tight, worked together for many years, and I don't imagine you're doing too well, considering how we lost Bob so rapidly.
Well, I think rapidly is the thing. I'm still a little bit in shock, because I think a lot of people are. When I spoke to Bob a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that, the treatment, his treatment plan had been approved, and he was looking forward to starting that, and seemed like he, was pretty positive about it. I think, a number of people that have gone through situations, in my mind, I think attitude is a big part of it. If you go in believing you're defeated, but he was really looking forward to getting started. And then the day before or 2 days before he was supposed to begin his treatment, just complete shutdown. And from that point on, it was just a matter of making him comfortable. But it's a shame. It's a huge loss. I know division racers all over the country are in mourning, because he was a voice. If you raced in Division 4, he was your guy. If you raced in Division 3, he was your guy. Division 5, he spent some time out on the West Coast. He'd come out to Vegas and work for Jeff and do some of the big races out there. And, you would be very hard pressed to find anybody that was more knowledgeable about class cars. And, he was a guy that understood from being around for so many years, and also from being behind the wheel, that, what happened in this race, what made this special, what the driver was thinking, and he was a guy that could explain that. And it's a huge void. I just hated hearing the news. And, I've been really thinking back the last couple of days more about, anybody that knew Bob, if Bob was laughing, they could hear him in the pits, even if he was in the tower without a microphone. And he really enjoyed a good joke, whether it was on him or whether he was pulling it. And he and I traded a couple. One of my all-time favorites, and I really thought about this the other day, was one of the first times that he was racing stock and working the national event was in Topeka, his home racetrack. So he's obviously, family, friends, everybody's there. One, he was the local track announcer that made it to the big show, so he was now announcing at the Nationals, which is a big deal. And two, he was racing in Stock Eliminator. And so when I penciled the schedule together, I had him down to announce round 2 of Stock Eliminator. And I said, "You'll be available, right?" And he laughed for 10 minutes. And it was but that was, just one little Bob story over the years, for a number of years. When Dave McClelland and Bob Fry had the lead announce position, Unkefer and I would room together. And so, we're both beer and burger guys. We spend a lot of time, sitting in a hotel bar, having a cocktail and having a cheeseburger and telling stories. And it's just a shame. I really, for Greg and for Whitney, his kids, I really feel for them because, if, and again, anybody that knows Bob, if you go, hey, how's Whitney's horse deal? Oh, let me tell you about the competition that she's in this weekend. And let me tell you, he was just so proud of both of his kids and what they did and what they accomplished. And, I just hate it for them that, that they lost him so early in life. And 68 years old, I was surprised when I heard that because I knew he was a couple of years older than me. I didn't realize he didn't strike me as a guy that was 68. He always seemed like a guy who was 10 years younger, at least. Just from his energy and his enthusiasm and everything he did. So it's a terrible loss. And, as with everything else, when one foot in front of the other, we'll move on. We'll get through it. We'll get past it. But Bob's going to be remembered for a long, long time. I promise.
Without a doubt. And you just searching my feed. It's and to the fellow racers out there, I took the license to borrow your photographs from your Facebook pages. And this is Mike Boehner. This was from him. And this is from Stan and Sheila Holt. And this one is from Warren Evans. Photos that were up there. But there's a couple that are super special, and I want to talk to you about them because, I bracket raced. I like to think that if I had the opportunity to shake off the rust, that I could go out there and compete, and maybe on the right day, I could maybe win a race, right? I won, many races over the years. I finished 11th at the 5-day overall 5 days. I won a Super Pro Track Championship. I had a good career, and so when I'm on the mic and I'm watching and I'm thinking maybe wouldn't that be interesting? Like the dream, the announcer's dream. Bob Unkefer got to actually live that, announcer dream of coming out of the booth and running Stock Eliminator at the Spring Nationals, coincidentally, the next race that we'll be going to, and he won it. And this one, I think, from Kevin McKinnon's page, there's a couple of them out there, and you did the interview. You were there that day, and I know it's not Bob's greatest lifetime accomplishment. I know as someone with kids and someone with such a great life, that he had probably countless other accomplishments, but one that is amazing and relatable, like the math of it. Like, what are the odds that the day that you get offered the Stock Eliminator car from the Emmons brothers is also the day you lock in the zone and you go on and you win in, 6-7 rounds and you win the race? You can see it on his face right here and your face. Unbridled joy that only comes from the unbelievable accomplishment of winning an NHRA Wally. Tell me about what you remember from this day when Bob Unkefer, I guess, put down the microphone and went out and raced and won the race.
Well, it's interesting because what I remembered, I was kind of wondering, right? I mean, you embellish it, in a situation like this.
Yes.
And so I was thinking about it and I'm like, if I'm not mistaken, I seem to remember that he just was lights out unconscious, but I might be making some of that up. So thanks to Drag Race Central, the archives are there. I went back and looked. It was a 7-round race. In the quarterfinals, he had a 004 reaction time, eased off, plenty of room, took the stripe safely. In the semifinals, he had a perfect reaction time, was able to ease off the throttle, get the stripe easy. And in the final round, he was 001 dead 2. Who wants a piece of that? And, he wasn't like, hey, 6 red lights, how about me? He crushed it that day. And it was just, he was locked in the zone. And I remember when he came up on stage because he had done plenty of those winner circle stage things as the MC over the years. And so when he came up on stage, the first thing I asked him, and I said, hey, Bob, you've stood on this side of the stage a number of times. I said, how's the view? And he actually teared up. And it was a pretty special moment. I'm really glad that I got to be there for it. And I'm really glad that I got to be a part of it. But yeah, that was, that trophy was certainly one of his prized possessions. It was on his desk forever, as far as I know, something what, every day he would see that. And, even if he's having a bad day or he's having an off, he'd go, yeah, that was pretty cool. And 2008 in Houston.
Yeah. I can't imagine. And I'm so happy that he was able to have that moment. Like, what a great moment. And, I became friendly and friends with Bob through my involvement, but I also have the greatest of respect for yourself and so many out there that had decades of friendship and closeness with Bob. And, when I would get to see him in the tower recently, we would chat and have a talk, and he was always helpful and complimentary. And there were a few times where he jumped on WFO to help me kill a little time out of nowhere. He's, it wasn't like booked. He just knew that a driver had gotten a time wrong or something and jumped on, and we talked about divisional racing, and just so sad. And, there's a couple people out there talking about jumping on to some of the streams to just hear Bob's voice again. Look at this one. Listen to Unk on the Lucas Oil Series race on YouTube this morning just to hear his voice again. And it's a little weird, right? It's a little different for a broadcaster, for an announcer, for someone that shares their core with so many people. It's not the NFL, say, but there's thousands and thousands of racers that would flip on. Brogdon is in a Competition Plus article. Like, when you went to a race in Division 4, you knew your mic guy was, and you knew what you were going to get, and you liked it. And I think that's why so many people are really feeling this and really hurting. It happens so quickly. And it's just terrible, but it's the same all the time. We do this a lot, Alan, right? Like, what would Bob want right now for us to do?
Have a crown and tell funny stories and go racing. That's what he'd want. Not like me. When I die, I want you to cancel Indy.
Really, Alan? You want us to cancel it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Everybody always threat, well, when I die, I want them to cancel Indy. Remember that.
Okay. Well, it's on the air right now. Even if someone will remember this. Chris Monahan is out there. Chris is going to be joining us this weekend. Bob was a great man. He's a major reason I'll be joining you guys in the booth next weekend at Houston Raceway Park. Such a huge loss for everyone in the racing community. And I concur, Chris, and looking forward to working with you out there this weekend. Just brutal. But I really do believe that the racing community is going to come together, and there's a couple of hashtags going around, and I like this one, burnouts for Bob, and people are doing them and posting them, and the hashtag.
Bug Bite did that.
Really?
Yeah.
And she's got his hood too. I mean, she's got the Emmons hood that he won on her. She's a Pontiac gal, which I don't know, if everybody knows who Bug Bite is, but they know Sarah. And she's got a Pontiac, and she got the hood off the car that the Emmons had that's now on her, et cetera, and so on. I agree. I love it. Like, the best thing that drag racers can do for our fallen friends is a long and smoky burnout, hopefully followed by a win light or a great run.
Yeah, and there was a lot of that happening over the course of the weekend. Twitter's the only social media I do, but when Sarah blasted it out, I blasted it out and got tagged in a lot of the photos and a lot of the videos and a lot of stuff that came up. And, I understand that, Bob spent most of the day following along in the division race that was happening down in Houston because, he considered that his place. Division 4 was his house. And also following along on social media with all the stuff that was going on. And I know that he knew that we were all thinking about him and that we were all sending our best wishes his way. And, hopefully in some small way hopefully that made him smile a little bit.
I think so. I got to hang out with him in a bar somewhere in Kansas, one of my first years. And, just a funny guy, great storyteller, funny guy, fun guy. And what I picked up was, my opinion, was no animosity. There's people with an edge, and there's people that are, I don't want to call him a big softy, but he was just kind and nice and helpful and positive. Here, who am I, right? Who's this guy? I get the opportunity coming out of nowhere. I haven't done anything. And he was really nice. He was nice to me and positive, and we enjoyed a couple of beverages, and that's it. That's all I can say. So someone is out there, and I apologize to this user who doesn't have his name up there because sometimes in the Facebook group it doesn't put your name, but Division 4 races won't be the same anymore. And yes, they will be different, but Bob definitely, in my opinion, wants people to continue to enjoy their drag racing hobby and be out there and put everything that they've got into it, right? Like that's what it's about, like living the experience.
Well, times change, things go on. Yes, it will not be the same, but there will be somebody that comes along that earns the respect of the racers as Bob did and turns it into, when we lost Lynn Nickerson, who in Division 4 was as beloved as Bob, and everybody, it'll never be the same. Going to a division race without Lynn, because Lynn had been down there for so long. He knew everybody, right? He always said hi to the wives and the kids and had stories about it because he'd been there so long. And the number of people that said, oh, well, and then Bob came in, and over time, it's not, the second race, you're not going to go, oh, well, that guy's perfect.
Right.
But over time and developing relationships and building friendships, and he then became that guy. And, it's a tremendous loss. There's no doubt about it. But there will be somebody who comes along and who puts in the time and who makes the friends in it and earns the respect and goes on and becomes the next guy. It's just, it's circle of life. I think that, somebody will come along and we will continue on. But I don't think it'll ever be, nobody's ever going to forget Lynn Nickerson and what he did for Division 4, even though Bob became the beloved Division 4 announcer. And somewhere down the line, there will become somebody will take over that role. But that doesn't mean anybody's ever going to forget Bob Unkefer. And it's not a matter of, replacing or being better. I didn't replace Bob Fry, but I took the job. And, for everybody that, especially in the early days, you'll never be Bob Fry. I said, great. I don't want to be Bob Fry. We have Bob Fry. And, I'm going to just try to put my thumbprint on the job and do the best job that I can. And hopefully the racers, the fans will get used to me and respect me and hopefully like me and as they did Bob. But I'm not replacing Bob any more than Bob replaced Dave McClellan. It's just the next person will come along, make it their position. And again, nobody's ever going to forget Bob Unkefer as the voice of Division 4 and Division 3 and Division 5 and all the other stuff that he did. But there will be somebody else that comes along and hopefully becomes just as beloved as Bob is.
Yes, well, exactly. And on that note, we're going to Houston next week. And I think the celebration of Bob's life will continue right through that. And that's going to be an emotional deal too, right? Like we're very emotional here on this edition of the show, but sometimes it's just the way it is. And the announcing position, I love track announcing, like Steve Evans, Big Mac, Bob Fry, you, Brian, like what's going on? Listening to people put their spin on it. It's not easy, folks. I'm not telling Alan this. I'm telling everybody out there this. It's not easy to satisfy 200 people with your delivery, with the information, with half of them have just lost. How did you characterize that? What did you say about their car, about their sponsor, about their family, about their life? Do you know everything? Do you know them? And it's a very challenging position. Me coming out of talk radio in Miami, where, I'm fighting people on the other end of the radio who are angry that I'm on their free FCC regulated box. That was a different thing. And drag racers are different, but it's challenging. And Bob navigated that so well. And as do, honestly, everybody that makes it to the highest level of this, because if you didn't, you wouldn't. And that's a big part of it. But let's move forward, right? And let's talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened. Like speaking of divisional racing, D4 was in action in Houston. D7 was in action out there in Vegas. You were out there in Vegas. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you saw? Like,
great race. We did a double divisional.
To lighten it up a little bit, right? Because, I like to lighten it up. Let's start off, if you don't mind, since he's out there watching. Jerron settles, right? He makes the final round. and he was a little tardy.
He made the final round, Joe. Just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. That's, since Duran definitely can take a joke and, a little funny back and forth, this guy, but he got off the schneid in 2022 because he had really been getting his knuckles wrapped over and over again out there by the Super Comp racers. To make it to the final round, I feel like was a big weekend for Duran, but he did runner up to Chris Whitfield. Yeah.
And you never want to get that far and then go home without the trophy. But, and I've said this a number of times, there was 104, I believe, Super Comp cars on the property. So there's 102 guys that would have loved to be where he was and only one that wouldn't. And I call that a pretty good day at the office. 102 guys would have traded their finish for a runner-up finish in a heartbeat. But he did a nice job. And he was also, he's races with the Weens family. Ted and Jennifer weren't there. I understand that they were on vacation in, I don't know, Barbados or the south of France or on their floating cloud, wherever they were. But the girls were both there, and Duran was helping them out as well. And Brianna had a pretty good day in Top Dragster, good enough at least that she locked down the division. She is going to be the division rep for the Jags All-Stars because this was the last race for Division 7 to lock down the All-Star team. So Duran not only had a good day as a driver, but also working with his teammates. The whole team had a pretty good run. That is
great. That is great. I guess let's see. I didn't get full results of D7. I know that Kevin Carter won comp over Joe Mazeris and Kevin.
That was race 2.
Oh, that was race 2. So we had double races. That's why the results were a little funky when I went to look them up. So just give us your Alan Reinhart highlights.
Well, there was a couple of them. Ryan Pretty won comp in the first race after winning comp at the Nationals. So, pretty good points harvest for him. And if I'm not mistaken, he went to the semis in race 2. Doug Gordon followed up his national with the win in funny car. So did Joey Severance. I made it a cupcake race, so they both won their own bounties. They won their cupcakes. But a typical Division 7 fashion. I mean, we had 600 plus cars and ran Friday test and tune, or Friday qualifying and time runs, Thursday qualifying time runs. Friday we ran an entire race, and then Saturday morning everybody had one hit at the track. We set the ladder and went right into racing on Saturday, and then concluded Sunday afternoon about 4:30 or so. But it was a really good event. It was a pretty clean event, other than Mike Ferderer losing brakes and taking his car into the sand. We had a super stock car that got turned around down at the finish line and went upside down, but not too much carnage, not too much cleanup time, not too much, people hurting stuff and destroying stuff. So that was definitely, 600 cars running 2 races in 4 days is a pretty steep accomplishment, and Mike Rice got it done.
Well, the good news is now for Jeff Foster and his team, they get to rest and recover. Knots, right? The Spring Fling Million is getting ready to go off. What a big 3 weeks in a row. Right? Like Foster, schedules
the million is starting today.
Yes. No, I know. It's bunches, binge racing out there at the strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, national, double divisional, million.
But that's part of the makeup of that racetrack. And I think, Foster subscribes to the same theory that Chris Blair did when he was there before. If we have a facility, let's use it. Not everybody thinks that way. There are a lot of racetracks that around the country that only run, a few big events a year, or wouldn't be interested in a Wild Wednesday or a Midnight Madness type event because they're not going to make $100,000. But Jeff's theory is, if we can open the gates and we can utilize the facility, one, if you're generating income, that's better than not generating income, and two, it keeps your full-time staff, A, working, and B, in practice for when the other events come up. It makes you a good neighbor in the community to have the racetrack open as much as you possibly can, so that hopefully the folks that like to street race and like to drift and will come to one of your events instead of going out and terrorizing the streets. But that's just the way they do it there. And I think we've seen quite a bit over the past few years, and especially now, everybody looks at the racetracks that are closing and it's Chicken Little almost, the sky's not falling, but operating a racetrack is not a 3-weekend-a-year proposition. You've got to get out there and do it, especially if you live someplace where the weather's not going to be your friend. Norwalk is busy anytime they can be busy. They've got enough months of snow when they can't open the gates, and in the summertime and the springtime, once they get going, they go, because the old story, making hay while the sun shines. And Jeff believes in that, even though he has a racetrack that you can run year round. It's the same thing down here in Tucson. Matt and Jim down here that run the Tucson track try to do 2 or 3 events a week. Even if one of them is just a streetcar night, or one of them is a Beyond 1320 where they race in the shutdown area, the no prep guys come out and race down in that. But they try to keep the track busy, just to keep the lights on, keep the cash register ringing. And that's something I think you've got to do in this day and age.
Is that track capable of holding a national event?
Well, today, no.
With
could
updates,
it be?
With some
could
investment?
It be? Yes.
Okay.
The most important thing at a racetrack is a racetrack, and we've got that. 700 feet of concrete, I believe, long shutdown area, concrete walls all the way to the sand, all the things that would be required for the racetrack itself. Second, must go lights. Tucson has lights as good as any track in the country, and better than some of them that we run national events on right now. No question about it. They have that. Paved parking for the pros. We have that. Plenty of paved parking for the pros. So that stuff is in place. Are there enough grandstands? No. Would you do motorhome parking on one side? I don't know. That's something you have to talk about. VIP amenities. Are there enough of those? No. But that is something that could be brought in on a temporary basis for the event, whether it's a tent, whether it's a whatever. A lot of tracks will utilize, Vegas, as a matter of fact, utilize it as a tent for their top eliminated club. So that stuff could be done. But the things that you can't fake, the racetrack, the lighting, the parking, all is there. So then it's a matter of what would it take to make the rest of it work, and is it viable, especially long term? Another thing that, from being in the business long enough, you can't miss on an inaugural event. If they said, okay, we're going to have the Arizona Nationals move to Tucson, the first one, they'd be swinging from the rafters. You'd sell the place out. It would be a grand slam. It's easy to do with an inaugural event. Everybody wants to go to the first one, especially if it's new and exciting. There hasn't been a national event in Tucson since 1985, and that was an AHRA national event. And even if it had been an NHRA national event, a far cry from what we do now.
Right.
I mean, you've been out there, 10 years? It's changed a lot just in that 10 years. The first couple events you went to, when you were going as a reporter, as WFO, before you were part of our staff, to Gainesville, go back in time 15 or 20 years and look at the event, right? How it was run, how long it took, how the organization was versus today. So the event that we would have in Tucson would be unrecognizable from the last national event that was here in 1985 at the old Tucson Dragway. The question then would be, is it sustainable? With the population of the area, could we get people from Phoenix to come to Tucson? I think that would be another really big part of the equation. And it's the same discussion I've had about Topeka with so many people over the years. The distance between Tucson and Phoenix is exactly the same as the distance between Phoenix and Tucson. Logic.
Right.
But you talk to somebody in Tucson, hey, how often do you go to Phoenix? Oh, we go to Phoenix pretty regularly, right? We might go up and see a Cardinal game or go see a Diamondback game or whatever. There are plenty of reasons in Tucson that you would drive up to Phoenix for a day or for a weekend or whatever. It's just part of life. But you talk to somebody in Phoenix and go, you ever go, oh no, why would I go all the way down to Tucson? There's nothing down there. I'm not driving all the way down there. And they see us as some outpost that has no reason to try. So could we get Phoenix fans to come down to Tucson? That would be, I think, a big part of the equation as well. And it's the same issue that, Topeka has a little bit, because if you live in Topeka, going to Kansas City is just part of your normal routine. You go to Kansas City regularly. But if you live in Kansas City, the thought of going to Topeka, people in Kansas City look at Topeka like it's on the other side of the planet, not like it's 52 miles down the road. And so convincing somebody from Kansas City that there's an event in Topeka that's worth driving to is a difficult task, just like it would be convincing somebody in Phoenix that, hey, this race down in Tucson is worth driving 100 miles for, because that's what it is. It's 100 miles.
I did the drive, baby. I saw it. I saw the airplane graveyard. I saw it all. I just, that's the thing about markets. That's a television market debate, right? And that is a big problem with what some of these tracks we're losing is the market debate. We're losing the market, not so much the race, but the market. It's like you're so close to millions of people, and there are places out in the middle of nowhere. But you know what? Homestead Miami Speedway is 30 minutes from Miami and fights that same deal. Like, oh, we're going to go way down to Homestead. Oh my gosh, why would I ever do that? Oh God, might as well go to the Keys. What's up with that? It's like, guys, it's 30 minutes. This is South Florida. You got to drive 30 minutes to get everywhere. That's it. You just drive. But it's the deal. Just wondering about that. Let's see. Houston was in action this past weekend. Chase Williams got the win in comp. Greg Stanfield again out. Like, okay, Greg Stanfield. I texted him. I was like, what are you eating? He's like, bananas. Parker DeVore in stock, holding Larice over Christopher Dodd. Wow, what a final round. Chris Best in Super Gas. Morgan Hoda in Super Street. Darian Bosch and Rusty Baxter. And those are guys, those are your favorites to go out there and win in a couple of weeks. But they had a
Darian
big race.
Bosch wins in Texas. There's a shock. That's right up there with Greg Stanfield wins. There's a shock.
Yeah. Right, no, exactly. But Stanfield,
looking forward to seeing all those guys in Houston this next week. We got a week off this week, so.
Yeah, Monahan says Greg was 001 dead zero in the semis. He's the champ for a reason. 5-time champ for a reason. And so all those years that he wasn't running for the championship, were those like missed opportunities, I guess? Or is he just really feeling the pressure of the kid coming up and stepping up his game? That's the debate.
I really think that the kid is providing motivation and not any part of pressure. But, for all the years when Greg was out there, when he was building engines, when he was doing stuff, and he would dabble in a car from time to time, but when it wasn't really chasing anything. And then Aaron coming up and starting to have success, I think motivated Greg, and he made him realize that, that is pretty fun. Maybe I should try that again. And the fact that he was able to get his old Camaro back, I think also has a big, big part of it. Because I don't know, but I just think that knowing that he's got his same old car and is just like more motivation, and I think it's probably a fountain of youth, in some ways. It takes him back in time 10 years or 15 years or whatever, and he's doing the same thing he was doing back then.
Greg Stanfield, one of the first people to put a WFO radio sticker on his cars years and years ago. And I never forget that kind of thing. They're doing a great job. I'm excited to be down there in Houston. NHRA's got a big press conference, at 2:00. And so I'm going to try to make sure that you are gone and I am gone before the top of the hour. So let's do a couple of final thoughts, obviously, as we get ready for race week next week. We're going to have Caps on tomorrow. I do want to tell you about the Palm Beach International Raceway Big Commissioner meeting that happened. Let's talk about Caps first, though. He's out in Hawaii doing some stuff. He'll be back. But that was really a big milestone victory for this guy who is, I just keep thinking about the correlation between him and Snake, right? Like Snake, was a team owner for longer than Caps. Caps making this transition to team owner, getting this win so early on. It's got to be so helpful to him as he reinforces the partnerships that he has made over the years.
Certainly. And, going to Pomona qualifying number one and going to the final was a great way to start. And then, coming in and winning as soon as he did. But you got to remember, all the same people, the same race cars, the same parts, the same stuff. They didn't, he didn't just go, okay, I'm going to go start my new team and hire a bunch of new guys and buy a bunch of, he took everything and everyone with him from DSR, so he would have a comfortable place to start. Now, as of now, the equipment is being leased, so he's going to be buying trucks and trailers and doing all that stuff somewhere down the line, but he'll be able to make that transition at his pace instead of having to just start scratch with everything new. And I think what you said about...
Yeah, Go ahead.
Well, I think what you said about, reinforcing his partners, Napa loves Ron. And he works so hard for them. I don't think there's anybody out there that realizes how much work Ron does for Napa. The number of times I see him in the airport, and it's like, you looking forward to going home? And he's like, home? No, I'm going to Wisconsin. I've got an appearance to do. I've got a thing to do. I've got something. But Napa always had the corporate relationship with DSR. Now, when it came to, doing the hospitality, doing the stuff, taking care of the people at the racetrack, that was Don's responsibility and the staff at DSR, and he was a master at that. So Ron now coming in and him being the guy who now has to worry about everything instead of just drive the race car and do what I need to do for the sponsors. He now has to take care of everything. And I think that this reinforces with the folks at Napa and with everybody else that has partnered up with him that they made the right choice in staying with Ron, because they certainly, if Ron wanted to go do his own thing, could have stayed with DSR and hired another driver. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be with Ron. Ron is their guy. And I think it, years down the road, I think all parties are going to look back and think that was a very wise decision on everybody's behalf.
I agree. And it's no disrespect to anybody. I just think that this is the natural evolution. Can't wait to talk to Caps tomorrow, guys. It's going to be happening at a special time, 11:30 a.m. in the morning WFO. We need you guys all here. So go to the YouTube channel, set a reminder. I'll tweet and text, and I'll write you a letter if you want, but be ready for that. All right, Alan. He must
be back from Hawaii then, because that'd be 5:30 a.m. in Hawaii.
Yeah, no, he's back. He's coming back today. He's back. He set the time, but it's going to be fun. But yeah, we're going to talk a little Hawaii as well. But hey, before I tell you my story about Palm Beach, you drove a race car, Alan Reinhart. Yes. Speaking of Unkefer going out and winning, like the connection is so similar. Like imagine if you just jumped in the car and you went out and won. Right? Like, wow. What was it like? Tell us, everybody wants to know what it was like for Reinhart to get behind the wheel.
It was fun, and that's the only reason I did it. Chris Hall has a B stock automatic 1970 Camaro, that big block, second generation Camaro that does big wheel stands. And I love wheel stands. Who doesn't love wheel stands, right?
Crazy.
So whatever it was now, 3 or 4 years ago, he won a division race out in Vegas. And we came up in the tower and, the pay window and all this stuff and, hanging out up there and everybody. And we got to talking a little bit. And he's almost exactly the same size as I am. I mean, tall guy, long legs. And we got talking and he said, "Hey, I appreciate you always saying nice stuff about my car." And I said, "Dude, that thing's awesome." And he said, "You ought to drive it sometime." I said, "Tell me when." I mean, we could do it right now if I hadn't had a beer in my hand.
Right.
And he said, "Well, one of these days." And we've just never been able to get together. And this was whatever we've done now, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But we talk about it all the time. And so Vegas had a test and tune on Wednesday. Chris was there, hanging. He stayed over from the national event like so many of the sportsmen did. He certainly doesn't need any practice. So he said, "Hey, look, now's your time. Get in the thing, make a couple of hits." And so that's what I did. I got in the thing and I made 2 runs with it. The wheelies are awesome. I mean, that was the whole point of the exercise. I do have to tell you, though, the funny story. The first run that I made in it, and I'm sitting in the car, and he's explaining, the typical stuff, right? Here's the line lock, here's the deal, da-da-da. Now, it's a metric 200 transmission with a reverse pattern valve body. So for anybody who doesn't know what that means, and in a car like this, you have to shift it, even though it's an automatic transmission, you have to shift it manually. You don't just put it in drive, you put it in low, and then you put it in second, and then you put it in high. And reverse pattern means with the floor shifter that when you make the shifts, you're pulling it backwards as opposed to pushing it forwards. And you really have to train your brain for that, because the natural deal is just keep shoving it forward with an automatic. So he sits down, we go through that a couple of times, and he said, "Now, here's what you got to be ready for. You make the 1-2 shift at about 1.3 seconds, and the front end's still going to be in the air. So you're going to be here when it's time to shift." And I said, "Okay." And it's like, if you miss the shift, it's going to come down, it's going to hard land, and I really would appreciate it if you didn't do that with my car. I said, "Okay." And he said, "You want to make the shift about 74, 7,500. I said, "What's the shift light set at?" And he reaches in, click, 7,000. I said, "Okay, that'll work." If I pull it 100 early, who cares? But I'm not gonna hit the limiter and slam the thing down. Now, the tack and the shift light are on the dash, on the right side, basically in the center of the car. So I purposely went into the left lane, so I'd be looking at the tree, and the tack would be right in my line of sight. So when I hit the gas and came up, even if I'm bringing my eyes back over, I'm still going to be basically looking at the shift light. So I go up and da-da-da, do the routine, do the burnout, da-da-da, pull in, plant the brake, and I turn the thing loose, and the car goes, "What?" And I pull the handle, and it goes out, and then I thought, I never saw the shift light. I must have short shifted it, but didn't hurt anything, but I must have short shifted it. So I drive the thing on down the racetrack, and I get down about 500 feet or so, and I'm watching the tack, and it gets up almost 8,000 RPM, and it goes right into the rev limiter. Just I'm like, oh crap! And so, just did this, then put it in drive, and drove it on down the rest of the way. So I go back to the pits, and he said, well, you did a nice job on there. He said, what happened? And I said, the shift light never came on. And I said, tell you the truth, I never saw it in low gear either. I said, I just pulled automatically, and I realized, so I figured I'm going to wait for the shift light. And so he goes in, plugs in his computer, and he goes, well, you shifted it at 7,300, so that's in. And he goes in and does a run through on the deal, and the shift light doesn't work. And he said, now that you mention it, he said, I can't remember the shift light coming on either. He said, I just shift it by ear, and I'm so used to it. But he said, now that you mention it, I don't remember the shift light coming on either. So you put me in a broken race car, Chris. So I went up and made the second run. That time, the shift light, without the shift light, but still, I hit it on time both times. Ran 10:67, I think, down the track, which is about what the car runs. And but anyway, I made my 2 runs, did 2 big wheelies, and that's what I really wanted to do. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate Chris letting me do it.
No, that's great. That's great. That's awesome. And yes, wheelies, pretty cool. I've only driven one car that did pretty big wheelies, and we had to tame down. And it was like a 3-footer, and it was like, woo, fun. That's why everybody does this. All right, yeah, there it is. I can see it perfectly. We can see it perfectly.
That's kind of on the way down. There's one thing about being the announcer in a race car. You don't have to ask anybody to take pictures because everybody is going to do it, hoping that you do something stupid. And they'll go, hey, Reinhart, remember this? So there was plenty of documentation.
Makes perfect sense. All right, so Palm Beach International Raceway, there were 2 meetings. Last Thursday, 9:30 in the morning, I decided, you know what? I had already had something planned in the afternoon, a funeral, an unfortunate circumstance for a good friend's father. So I'm going to get up to West Palm early and just go to this meeting and see what happens. The people who are purchasing it, the developing company, they wanted to make site changes, and they had to get voted yes for the site changes, and a whole bunch of racers showed up, like 50 of them showed up, all independent from each other, not organized, and they all got 2 minutes to make a little speech, as did I, and we all made our case. Who was talking about illegal street racing? Who was talking about that this place has been there for 60 years, it should be a historical landmark? Who was talking about all the traffic, 400 trucks rolling through neighborhoods every single day to get out there, and whether it's going to be Amazon or whether it's going to be Walmart, like we don't know which big company it's going to be, but the development company. And so the commissioners actually listened to us, and long story short, the lawyers for the development company tried to have the whole thing postponed. No, we're going to call it off, postpone the vote. No, they voted, and they denied them the site changes, which doesn't mean the track is saved yet, but it's definitely a hurdle. Like, had they approved the site changes, it was like a done deal. They said, no, we're going to kick it to the final meeting on April 28th, 9-something in the morning in West Palm, without the site plan updates, because we believe that there's enough here that the community should be heard. And we now need, ultimately, people to show up, some expert testimony from people. They're gathering signatures, and it's not over. Multiple people on the board had racing experiences out at the track, had been there as a young person, recognized the value to the community. And now it's I don't want to characterize it as a street fight, but the biggest problem now, and this is to the WFO universe out there, the person who owns the property, they want to sell the property. They don't want to own a racetrack. They're not into that. They have a real estate investment they want to sell. If we can find a replacement buyer, then there's a chance. But if we can't, then there's probably not. And it's as simple as that. So the final meeting is coming on April 28th. Local community is energized because of what happened last Thursday. They had all quit, Alan, as you could imagine. Oh, no chance. Oh, corruption. All that same stuff. No, it actually worked out. A bunch of young racers, like a young lady named Madeline Marconi, took charge of the deal. A guy named Corey Kramer, who I know, took charge of the deal, made great, brilliant speeches, and compelled the commissioners to vote no on site changes. And so now it's coming down to one final meeting on April 20th. You and I, of course, will be in Charlotte at that time. So someone locally, and there's a lot of people that are going to go. And ultimately, it's time for the drag racing community. All right, Alan, that's $70 million you've had squirreled away in the back room for a while. It's time to break it out. Let's get in on this track. World-class road course, FIA certification, all concrete drag strip, historic place, go-kart track, approved to be a concert venue, entertainment complex, all of that stuff within 20 minutes from an international airport, surrounded by protected land. So houses are not going to go in there. It's just about finding, winning the final meeting, finding a replacement buyer so that the real estate investors can exit and it can be a racetrack. But there is a flicker of hope.
70 million is the price?
Unofficially, I've heard that the bid that won was 70.
Okay.
I don't know that for certain, but that is the scuttlebutt, the number that was kicked around. Somebody else said, I heard it was 90, which is more, 70. But that's the number.
It seems like I'm a big do the math kind of guy. If I had $70 million, how long would it take me to recoup my investment if I spend it on a racetrack?
Well, exactly. And that's the answer. It would have to be, and hopefully the community would get involved. And can you do concerts there? And that's the problem. What you said about Jeff Foster and Blair is the polar opposite to what happens here, right? I don't know, man. In South Florida, where you're very close to 4 million people, you could do a lot there. And they're approved to do a lot there. But they don't, because it's a real estate investment. They do the bare minimum. And that's the challenge. And it's going to be very difficult. And my hopes are not up, but we're going to fight anyway, go through the process and see what happens. And honestly, Alan, to see these young people, like much younger than I, devil may care, going out there and putting their heart on the line and giving a speech with a countdown clock rolling down from 2 minutes in front of these officials, about why, street racing will be a problem, why 400 trucks per day rolling through neighborhoods is a problem. It was heartening. It was great. Even if it doesn't work out, it was the battle that was won that will ultimately matter, and I will remember. But it's not over yet. So hopefully the drag racing community will rally. I don't know if there's something NHRA could do, but we'll see. I've got calls in.
So Joe Castello's GoFundMe.
Yes. To buy the track,
only drop off $1 or $100 million, whatever you're comfortable with. And
this guy says, "Call the Rad Man." Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's it would take somebody who really it's also a real estate investment. Like it's 186 acres. That once you own the land, you own the land. 30 years from now, when we're flying, space cars, that land is still going to be worth something. Probably a lot more than it is now. But to keep it a racetrack, someone who loves racing is going to have to step up and step in. And maybe these commissioners will recognize which my point was this. I think it's worth more to the county as a racing facility.
Yeah.
There's no reason. Nobody flies from another country to go to a warehouse. They do for this track. This track has drawn already international tourism, and it is capable of doing it again if managed properly. But we'll see. There's the story. There's the update.
Well, it seems like with the right person in place, you're fortunate to be in a place where you could run year round. So you got that going for you. You're not going to have 4 months of the year where you're, just snowed under and can't do anything. So, if you've got the road facility, if you've got the go-kart facility, if you could do concerts, then it would seem to me that you could make some kind of a viable plan out of the thing if you had somebody in there from a promoter side that wasn't afraid to do big things. I know, Miller Motorsports Park, I think is like a genius deal. And I'm very surprised that other people or other racetracks don't cater to corporate events like that. Bring your team building folks out here and let's run them around the road course for 3 days while, having meetings and doing whatever the other stuff is. But there's a lot of opportunity there if you've got a road course and if you've got the things that you could do. And if you've got a concert venue, then there's even more to make sure that the place has got the gates open, as often as possible, not just 2 or 3 times a year.
And that's the challenge. But anyway, there's your update. Alan, great job as usual. Any final thoughts for everybody out there? Next week, we'll be focused heavily on Houston, and we'll, talk points and who's going to have a shot to win. This was a great conversation, obviously, mostly about Bob, and we all kind of get together and just, talk about the loss of, one of our family.
Yeah, and just, the final thought, I just wanted to send out, to Bob's family, to Michelle and Whitney and Greg that, we loved Bob as much as you guys did, and we're certainly going to miss him. And we're all sending our best wishes your way because I know you guys are struggling right now.
That's it. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine with how rapidly that happened. Just terrible stuff. We miss you, Bob. Rest in peace, buddy. Alan, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. And, I guess that's really the lesson, or one of the many countless lessons, right? Like the people that you appreciate now in life while they're here, tell them. Thank you, Alan.
All right, Joe. We'll see you later.
There he goes. Alan Reinhart, voice of the NHRA. I always try to look for some sort of positive lesson to learn. Final thoughts, final comments in the comment section before we get out of here. And I'm going to thank the people who make it possible for me to go WFO. Encourage you guys to hit the WFO store up on the website, all kinds of gear. I'm seeing more and more people wearing the shirts, wearing the sweatshirts. I don't see them with the coffee mugs, but that's because that's on their own time. Appreciate it. We've got a new Hidden Horsepower coming out with this guy. That'll be on Friday morning. But just super excited to bring on some new sponsors like Phillips Connect. Go to the website, phillips-connect.com, and check out what they do for trucks and trailers. For the sportsman racers out there, you cannot buy direct from Phillips Connect. It's more of an enterprise industry, but they make countless sensors and alerts and the ability to keep track of trailers out there on the road for those that are in that industry, for like larger companies like Amazon, say, they got a truck going down the road and a tire is heating up. They can signal their driver, hey, driver, you got a tire heating up back there. You maybe need to pull over and have it checked, that kind of stuff, which is preventative medicine for over the road. And they have got countless relationships, and we'll be telling you more about Phillips Connect over the remainder of the year. But obviously, big thanks to Justin Ashley and Mike Ashley and that team out there, and Amber and Epler and everybody that is involved for choosing the NHRA to educate and understanding this community that we have, and how many people are entrepreneur based, and how many businesses, how much B2B work is going on in the NHRA. And we've got great sponsors like Total Seal Piston Rings, obviously, which this is hard parts. You want more power, you go to Total Seal. It's really as simple as that. Power and longevity. 40% of your engine's friction comes from your piston rings. A lot of people don't even think about that. Believe it or not, a lot of engine builders don't even think about that. They've got a package that has been working for 15 or 20 years, and they buy it and they order it and they stick it in, or they use the rings that come with the pistons. Total Seal changes the whole situation. And maybe you did get rings that came with your pistons. You can send those to Total Seal and have them modified in the Total Seal way. A lot of options. Maybe you've got older pistons, and as long as they're good and they measure up, Total Seal can make a spacer so that you can utilize the new hyper thin piston ring technology. There's a lot of options. You got to call Total Seal first. And they say it all the time. Make them your first call, totalseal.com. VP Racing Fuels. Super excited that VP is on board with WFO Radio. And as time goes by, we're going to tell you more and more about some of their great products. Obviously, the racing fuel, the C12 that like I would use in my car, is next level and superior to other brands. But if you're a WFO Radio listener and the next time you're in your auto store and you're looking for some sort of a fuel additive, they make those too. And I would highly encourage you to use their products, whether it be car care products or fuel additives and lubricants. And to find out more, go to vpracingfuels.com. There's a newsletter there that's very informative you can sign up for, and that will be a great way to support WFO Radio. FTIperformance.com. The Spring Fling Million, really one of the most significant drag racing events there is, period. The Spring Fling Million out there in Vegas. And the answer is that there's going to be a lot of FTI performance transmissions and torque converters competing, and you'll be able to keep up with that. They have figured out a better mousetrap, frankly, and the best of the best are using it and putting it right in the winner's circle. and you can see consistency. But maybe you're not a big money bracket racer. You just got a very powerful street car. Well, they do that business as well, and you should go to their website, ftiperformance.com, and give them a call. Of course, tell them you heard about it on WFO. And that's all Paul Lee, honestly. Paul Lee wanting to be involved with WFO, and I can't wait. We're going to try to talk with Paul next week as we get ready for his return in Houston and the announcements of his new crew chiefs, etc., and so on. Marvin Rodak, listen, good times, coffee, great food, grills, hot sauces, everything down there in Fort Worth, Texas. Marvin is a buddy. He's a drag racing fan. Bacon recipes. Go to his website, Rodak, Rodaks, coffeeandgrills.com. He's also a big sponsor at Funny Car Chaos, and appreciate Marvin. 817-924-6821. If you like this show, just order a bag of coffee. That's it. And the rest, Marvin will take care of the rest. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, where you can drive a dragster. Drive one. Drive a dragster. Get off the couch, like Force always says. Drive a dragster. FrankHawley.com. And they come to you. They go around the country. And then samtech.edu. We'll be heading down there. If you're a young person and you're looking for a career that is not going anywhere, that is going to be around for a long, long time, a machinist, that career is not going anywhere. With CNC machines, programming them, EFI tuning, they've got so many things that are approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Samtech.edu. Thank you, Samtech. See you in a couple weeks. And then there's the Patreons. The VIP listener club, that is patreon.com/WFO radio. Just go to the website, WFOradio.com. Click on the banner and you'll see, like, now it's like hundreds of special shows and content, including the Ignition show, which if you want to watch it, it's up there on our YouTube channel on the Ignition playlist. And you can see all of our Patreons, the Bobby Grahams and the Sue Morrises and Troy and Olson's Trailblazers and Keith Howard and everybody that's on there. They're all VIP members. They pay a membership that they choose to support WFO. They know that we're trying to grow and that we're fighting. We're in a vicious fight against giant corporations that are in media for your entertainment. We're trying to entertain you with drag racing, and we're competing against giant, massive corporations, and they want to help out us. And so thank you for that. Join WFO Radio. All right, let's see what people have to say. I always lose track of where the, this one, Johnny Gray. I did reach out to Johnny months ago. I got to try to reach out again. But there was a rumor. I personally believe it's going to take a bit of a, like a group, like a consortium or something, a group of people that are for the betterment of motorsport and drag racing is really what I believe. But the road course and the go-kart track are like IndyCar tests there. Okay, that's what you need to know. This is no podunk little facility. No offense, anybody out there. This is a real potential world-class facility at an, very close to international airports in an extremely desirable part of the country. Again, no offense to the less desirable places, but that's also why it's expensive. Blake wants Brian Loans on the show. Brian, you can listen to Brian on his own podcast, Blake. If you don't like Castello anymore, you can go on there, and Brian is happy to answer your questions every day on the NHRA Insider. Brian is on there, but I love having Loans on. I was hanging with Loans a little bit in Vegas. Great show, Joe. Thanks. I was just teasing, guys. I love my coffee mug. Start your day with the WFO way. It's really true. Start your day the WFO way. Look at Monica coming up with slogans. Thanks, guys. R.I.P. Unk. Yeah. It's just... Is NHRA press conference going to be live? I don't think so. I think it's for the media only. And Reinhardt's asking me for the link. I should send him the link, right? I'm going to send him right now, guys. Reinhardt's texting me, and now I'm sending him the link right while I'm doing the show. Because what's the point if... There it is. Forwarded to Reinhardt. I'm going to jump on there too. Alexis is going to be on there. It's great. I don't think it's, they do post it eventually. Will the NHRA be on YouTube? Maybe tonight. Maybe. Joe and Alan, great show. Thank you for all you do. RIP, Unk. Maybe Bruton Smith and Forrest and Don Schumacher will look into buying the track. See you at ZMAX. Yeah, maybe. I hope. Forrest can't afford it. Not by himself. Patreons to the front. Thank you, Troy, who does our Big Money Minute. And when you get all your Spring Fling results on the Ignition show, Troy's going to be rocking it. So listen next week. Watch that YouTube show, guys. See if you like it. You don't have to, but it's a different style. We talk Ferrari, we talk Formula One, Drive to Survive, NASCAR, drag racing, travel gripes. It's very unofficial. Thanks for going to bat for Palm Beach, Joe. Thank you, Jerron. Just kidding about the runner-up, man. I'm proud of you. You told me what kind of a struggle you had this season, and you were, and you are. But now you're not anymore. Now you're coming in off a runner-up. All that bad stuff that happened at the start of the year, all that's erased. And now you just got to build on the momentum. I think it's a great, great job. Good job, Jerron. And yeah, guys, listen, I don't want pats on the back, but in the end, I just thought driving an hour, sitting in a government type meeting, even if I'm by myself, I'll learn. And when I saw there were 50 other racers there and people who didn't know each other from all walks of life there to support the track, I got angry at all the people on social media who had discouraged me and called me naive for trying to even do anything. And I got angry at them, but then I forgot about them and we just went to work and we did accomplish something on that one given day. No guarantees for the future, but had they lost that vote, the track will be dead. And the track is the heart is still beating. And those real estate investors, man, they got, they want their money and you can't blame them. So that's why the most important thing is to find someone else to make an offer. And then anything is possible. Phillips Connect needs to be associated with Ron Capps. Well, they're associated with Justin Ashley. Great Ignition show this week, Joe. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for watching and listening. Nice. Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Joe, says Blake. Why would they discourage you? Got to try. Monica, because negativity is a disease. And I'm not going to go into that on this show because it's a positive show. But negativity is a disease. And a lot of people that sit behind their keyboards are infected with it. And they can't break free of the negativity. And it's a very sad circumstance. But it just is what it is. And they would rather discourage people from trying to accomplish than actually joining them and accomplishing themselves. Tens of people. You're an idiot. It's over. Why even try? People with race cars. People who go to the track way more than I am able to. But that's what happened. It's a fact. And in fact, I talked to some of the guys afterwards. We had a little post-meeting. And I said, hey, guys, how many of you here were discouraged by someone from coming here? And they all said, I was. It's like, think about those people. That's what's going on out there in the world right now. Just is what it is. Final thoughts, Bob Unkefer. Friends and family of Bob. He was always really nice to me. I enjoyed him greatly on the mic. He fed me lots of great information. But it's not about Bob and me. It's about Bob and drag racing. And how many people out there have devoted as many hours and as much thought and as much time and as much love to drag racing as Bob Unkefer. Very few. Very few. And so, we're going to carry you, Bob, in our hearts. When cars go down the racetrack and we see those 6-foot wheelies, we're going to be thinking about, all who have helped. And Bob Unkefer was a big help to the sport of drag racing. We'll be down there in Houston in a couple of weeks, and hopefully everybody will go because this is the final race. And we pack that house and sell it out and party. I'm going to pay tribute to Bob Unkefer. To all my listeners out there, thank you guys. Please share the show, especially on YouTube. That's the only way we'll grow, is if you share the show. Simple as that. And Jeff is the final word. F cancer. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all of you. WFO. Oh, boy.